Welcome to the Pearson Eco-Business Zone Policy Toolkit training video series. This policy training video will provide an overview of the links between Ontario Planning Policy and Partners in Project Green Primer. Additional training videos are available on the following tools: using development permits to promote eco-business zone activity, and fast-tracking eco-business zone applications, how to get started. These training videos, as well as the full policy toolkit, can be accessed at www.partnersinprojectgreen.com/policy-toolkit. To begin, I would like to provide a little background on the policy toolkit. The policy toolkit is a collection of independent tools whose purpose is to provide guidance to municipalities in their development of a harmonized planning environment that will help facilitate and coordinate eco-business activities. The policy toolkit specifically assists municipal partners in developing and coordinating policies, regulations, and standards that will support green business. The policy toolkit's resources provide policy direction, answers to frequently asked questions, training materials, eco-business best practices, tips on leveraging legislation and regulations, steps for implementing green business initiatives, and several other resources. The policy toolkit is broken up into three main categories based on their intended purpose. The first category is communications tools. For example, the overview of Partners in Project Green for municipal staff helps municipal staff become familiar with and communicate about Partners in Project Green. The next category is primers, which are brief overviews of key information that will help staff from different municipal departments develop a high-level understanding of the policy, regulatory, and incentive framework that can shape eco-business zone activities. This policy training video will focus on one of the policy toolkit primers, links between Ontario Planning Policy and Partners in Project Green. Other primers that are available include using development permits to promote eco-business zone activity, eco-business zone municipal incentives, and fast-tracking eco-business zone applications, how to get started. The third category is policy templates, which provide specific examples of best practices, current policy wording, advice, and other practical guidance for creating eco-business policy, regulations, and incentives. Available policy templates include Glossary of Eco-Business and Sustainability Terms, Eco-Business Zone Policy Statement, Potential Municipal Eco-Business Zone Official Plan Policies, Considerations of Eco-Business Zone Development Standards, Eco-Business Subdivision Planning and Servicing Requirement, and Eco-Business Development Screening Tool. These tools are available for viewing and download at www.partnersinprojectgreen.com/policy-toolkit. This policy training video will focus on the Policy Toolkit Primer, links between Ontario Planning Policy and Partners in Project Green. The Policy Toolkit Primer highlights the following pieces of provincial legislation: the Provincial Policy Statement, or PPS, 2005, Places to Grow 2006, which is the Provincial Growth Management Plan, Planning and Conservation Land Statute Law, Amendment Act 2006, Bill 51, the Planning Act. This governs how land use planning is exercised in Ontario, and the Municipal Act 2001 and City of Toronto Act 2006, which establishes municipal powers in Ontario. Various sections of each piece of legislation are described in the primer. The primer explains how municipalities can use these sections in their support of eco-business zone activities and achieving municipal sustainability goals. The provincial legislation highlighted in the primer covers requirements and enabling policies that focus on various elements central to an eco-business zone. Some of these elements include green incentives, energy efficiency, land use practices, resource conservation, renewable energy, water quality, and public transportation planning. As previously mentioned, the primer highlights legislation that establishes municipal authority. In the planning and development process, sections of the Municipal Act and City of Toronto Act can help facilitate eco-business activities when, for example, these municipal powers are used to impose conditions relating to sustainability as a condition of granting development approval. In the next two slides, we are going to cover two areas of the Provincial Planning Act that are described in the primer and give an example of how they are being used to promote eco-business activities. First, we will start with sections 22, 34, and 51 of the Planning Act. These sections declare that when reviewing and approving a proposed amendment to an official plan, zoning bylaw, or a new plan for a subdivision, municipalities have the authority to request any additional information they consider necessary. To do this, municipalities must first amend their official plans to add policies which state that they may be requiring additional information and the scope of that information. With this, municipalities can therefore explore the use of these powers to request information related to eco-business zone activities and new developments. For example, this can include requesting the nature and amount of waste materials anticipated, the potential for waste heat production, energy conservation considerations, established sustainable land use practices, overall site drainage techniques, anticipated heat island effects for site parking layouts, pedestrian circulation patterns, site amenity spaces for employees and/or residents, and so on. The City of Toronto has used this authority to require submission of the Toronto Green Standard checklist as part of a complete application. The Toronto Green Standard is designed to work with the regular development approvals and inspections process. It is a two-tiered set of performance measures with supporting guidelines related to sustainable site and building design for new public and private development. Its purpose is to promote site and building designs that address air quality, greenhouse gas emissions, energy efficiency, water quality and efficiency, solid waste and ecology, and these are all important elements of an eco-business zone. Tier 1 is required through the planning process. In our next example, Section 28 of the Planning Act describes community improvement project areas. These areas are designated by the municipality for redevelopment due to various environmental, social, or community economic reasons. Once designated as a community improvement project area, municipalities can establish community improvement plans. These plans can be used to achieve sustainability objectives in addition to their economic and social intent. For example, municipalities can establish loan and grant programs through their community improvement plans that provide incentives for property owners to undertake improvements to buildings that will benefit its environmental performance. The City of Brampton has used its Community Improvement Plan in this way for one of its community improvement project areas. Its Community Improvement Plan involves many elements that are in line with eco-business zone activities. The plan encourages development based on a principle of sustainability. They encourage the protection of green space, intensification, green building design standards, transit-supportive and pedestrian-friendly environments, and an ecosystem approach to land use planning, just to name a few. As the last two examples illustrate, a municipality has authority and options that can be utilized to enforce and encourage sustainable development. Next, we will take a look at two case studies from the primer regarding the use of legislative tools for the development of eco-business zones. The first case study involves the Innovista Eco-Industrial Park located in the town of Hinton, Alberta. Innovista is Canada's first greenfield eco-industrial park and features green infrastructure and green development throughout the site. The process and design guidelines for developing Innovista can serve as a template for new and existing industrial parks. To begin with, the town of Hinton committed to having all aspects of the project demonstrate their commitment to sustainability and innovation. To help achieve this, the town relies on a number of regulatory mechanisms to ensure developers and businesses operating in the park are able to meet the municipality's desire for environmentally and economically beneficial development. This could be replicated in Ontario through municipalities' enforcement of Section 41 of the Planning Act to establish site plan control areas, where they can require conditions relating to sustainability as a condition of granting development approval. The town developed an eco-industrial district zoning designation. The zoning designation is intended to establish an area that will allow for the development of an industrial park that will demonstrate innovation and high levels of environmental and economic performance. The district allows a range of light and medium industrial uses as long as they conform to the eco-industrial district development guidelines. The guidelines were created to complement the eco-industrial zoning designation. They include both optional and required elements that promote innovation in the areas of energy, waste, transportation, ecological impacts, and other resource conservation. This approach gives developers flexibility to be innovative in their designs, and at the same time, a minimum number of guidelines must be met before a development permit is issued. For the development process, the town created a conceptual plan based on ecological design principles and a business plan demonstrating that an eco-industrial park would provide a greater return on investment for the town than a traditional industrial park. The park's ecological design was expected to be more efficient and to pose less risk to surrounding users, as the park is designed to protect the local ecology and has the long-term goal of self-sufficiency with respect to energy, water, and waste management. Through the town's sustainability commitment, zoning designation, and use of current standards, they have authorized and required numerous elements key for an effective eco-industrial park, including green infrastructure, procuring and developing green energy, buildings designed for district energy systems, minimized site clearing, waste to feedstock synergies, waste management programs, and reduced road surface area and maintenance compared to traditional industrial parks, and so on. Next, we will take a look at the Sustainable Devons Project, which is where a former Air Force base named Fort Devens, located in the state of Massachusetts, was scheduled for redevelopment. The Devens area has mixed-use development that includes industrial and office parks, residential nodes, and some adaptive reuse projects and protected natural areas. Like the Pearson Eco-Business Zone, the former base encompassed portions of 4 surrounding municipalities. A Devens Enterprise Zone, local bylaws, and a reuse plan were created for the Devens redevelopment project. The reuse plan includes eco-industrial principles and other sustainability objectives. The plan also takes a comprehensive, big-picture approach to development to make it more likely that synergies between residential, agricultural, and industrial activity will be identified and implemented. A Devens Enterprise Commission was chartered by the state to function as a regional government. The Commission oversees and regulates all development in the Devens community, including implementation of the reuse plan and administering local bylaws. The reuse plan calls for sustainability in the redevelopment of Devens, with an emphasis on protecting existing ecological features such as protecting the local aquifer, site remediation, and implementing sustainable agriculture. The plan articulates several sustainability-related goals, such as having 33% of the site remain in permanent protection from development. The plan also identifies a strong interest in promoting industrial ecology as one of the driving themes for business activity in Devens. For example, businesses may build physical connections between buildings to facilitate collaboration so long as vehicle and pedestrian access is not impacted. The Devens bylaws build on sustainability objectives in the reuse plan, including zoning, density, dimensional requirements, floodplain, water resources, historic districts, signage, and wetland protection provisions. The zoning bylaw also encourages developers to consider innovative development strategies to meet their environmental objectives. For example, the Commission can approve zero setbacks and relax other dimensional restrictions if sustainable features are deemed a lower risk than conventional methods, and if it helps a project achieve its stated innovative strategy. What the case studies highlight is that with effective and innovative use of legislation, authority, and support for eco-business activities, sustainability goals and objectives can be met. For the town of Hinton, developing the Innovista Eco-Industrial Park has resulted in Canada's first official Eco-Industrial Zone designation, which ensured a range of environmentally sustainable elements were incorporated into the park. In addition, sustainability-focused zoning bylaws provide a legal foundation that encourages and mandates development in accordance with eco-business principles. The bylaws also encourage developers to consider innovative development strategies and flexible design guidelines that adhere to the area's development plan also help to ensure developers and businesses can meet eco-industrial sustainability objectives in a manner most feasible for them. Municipalities in Ontario can follow the model of creating new zoning bylaws and policies to support eco-business zone activities. However, the use of existing regulations must not be overlooked. The Links Between Ontario Planning Policy and Partners in Project Green primer describes many existing legislative tools that can be used to promote eco-business activities. Some of these include incentives for green development, approval of building, subdivision, and municipal road design features, collecting valuable data essential for sustainability initiatives, municipal provision of energy conservation programs, and so on. Therefore, as the primer emphasizes, there are many legislative opportunities that allow municipalities the flexibility to incorporate sustainable and eco-business related elements into the design, planning, and development of various projects. Thank you for joining us for this installment of the Policy Toolkit training videos. For more information on Partners in Project Green, please visit www.partnersinprojectgreen.com. Once again, the link to access all of the policy tools and training videos is www.partnersinprojectgreen.com/policytoolkit.